It's Championship Managers Rank time, our final kind of international break tradition. Think upon these as like one of those American sports power rankings. We're going to have a look at the current performance of each and every Championship manager alongside their historical work, with the main focus being their work in the second tier of English football. Get your thoughts in the comments. We'll go from 24 all the way up to 1. And we'll start with Omer Riza. Easy one, really. Interim manager in at Cardiff. We've barely got any info. He's barely done any work in the Championship, so he has to go in, sadly, at the bottom. Hey, I think he wants the job full time, so we'll see if he can get that and climb his way up our list. 23, similar story. Narcis Pelach. Last time, he was straight in at the bottom because he was a new face for us. I think he's had 4 games now. 1 massive win, so fair dues there, but just too little information to have him any higher. But he has gone up 1 place because the Championship is a revolving door of managers. Who have we lost so far this year? Ryan Lowe, Stephen Schumacher, and Errol Ballou. 3 so far. There will be more. 22, we've got to drop John Mousinho to number 22. You can see at the start of the season, I had him in 19th. Then a little drop to 21st. He still hasn't won a game. So even though, and our focus isn't League One mainly when we're thinking about this, we can't ignore a new manager coming in and winning League One, but not going well for John Mousinho 9 games in to the Championship. Obviously, big caveat, hideous fixture list to start with for Portsmouth. Let's see if he can stop the trend down in this list and in the league table. I think you know which one he cares more about in terms of those 2 things. 21, Tim Volter. Look, I pitched him in at 21 to begin with. Then there was a really bad start, and I've dropped him to 23 in September. I'm going to put him back up to 21 now. Again, limited information, 9 games, Hull, 13th. So we now have seen some evidence of what Volter Ball is and the kind of upside of Tim Volter. I do think, though, 13th with Hull's squad won't be considered success. Doesn't matter what I think, won't be considered success by Mr. Ilicali, the owner there. So, I don't know. There's still an element of him finding his feet, but I do still think there's an element of underperformance, even though we've seen signs now of what it could be, best case scenario. 20th, this is a bit of a shame, this one, because Bristol City were my kind of wild card pick in my 1 to 24. I put them 7th. I've revised that a few times since the start of the season. They're currently 16th. And Liam Manning, I've dropped 16th, 18th, 20th. And I've just written down on my notepad here, all the good work's really been in League One, hasn't it, for Liam Manning? And I was kind of basing my optimism on a pretty decent finish to last season, but not a great start to this season. So really, when you think about it at Championship level, what have you done for me lately? Well, it's not massive yet for Liam Manning. I like the way he talks. I like the idea behind it. I need to see more results on the pitch. 19th, Wazza. 24. Look, we put him bottom at the start of the season. That was a bit of a telling off for that terrible performance at Birmingham last year. Obviously, we've got to factor in probably a pretty decent performance at Derby when you think of the utter chaos going on there, with the mitigating factor that everyone thinks that Liam Rossini was the brains behind all of that alongside Rooney. I put him up a couple of places. I'm going to put him up another 3 places. We cannot, guys, go crazy on these lists. We're doing little edits every month, aren't we? So I'm not going to be bumping people up 10 places at once. But the redemption arc for Rooney, if it's going to be one, is going to be a slow one. But if Plymouth finish 14th in the Championship, he will keep going up this list. Don't you worry about that. That's where Argyle are currently in the table. So it's good for Wazza at the moment. 18th, Des Buckingham. I've knocked him down a couple of places. Again, like John Mousinho, I kind of had to just kind of pitch him in somewhere at the start of the season because just no information in the Championship. Actually, very little information in English football other than a superb run to playoff victory. And then, obviously, we had to get very excited through September because it was a superb start to this season. I'm just going to level off a bit on Buckingham, and I think no wins in the last 4, but come on. we're judging someone having to manage Oxford in the Championship, where they're always going to be underdogs. So he's doing a great job, period. But obviously there's limited stuff to go on to put him any higher yet. And I think others maybe have moved ahead of him in this last block. One of those guys would be Johannes, Hoff, Thorup, who, well, there's three of them, wasn't there? We've already mentioned Tim Volter. We're going to mention Thorup now. Obviously, we've got to mention the Sunderland manager in a minute, who couldn't really have done much more with his start because he's top of the damn league. But I think we've all liked what we've seen from Norwich the past month or so. So I've kind of gone 21st to 20th. Little skip now up to 17th. If he's going to have Norwich challenging in the playoffs, then of the managers that have come in this season, he's going to be up there with the best, isn't he? So it's looking good for Thorup. I've got to move him up slowly. Remember, there are managers that have been in this league for years and have plenty more experience. But you can't really say fairer than what Thorup's doing. It's a trend up. It's going in the right direction. Right, this feels a little bit silly, Luke Williams. I've had to kind of drop him a place. And you can probably know why when we're going to talk about Sunderland soon. It's more about what other managers have done since. Maybe I went a bit too early. I've struggled to pitch Luke Williams, actually, in terms of Swansea. I went 17th, 15th after a sort of getting it going type run. I'm going to drop him down to 16th, but I've got to be really honest. If you're annoyed at me and you're a Swansea fan, the explanation is there's one big jump from a new manager this season, which we really, really have to acknowledge in the best way. So I've dropped Luke Williams down a place. And I've had to do the same, obviously, for Tom Cleverley again. It's difficult with Cleverley because he was an interim manager at the end of last season, and there was some good results. He had a difficult run of fixtures, and there was some good draws and stuff. Never anything spectacular. I must admit, to use the word spectacular, so I'm looking over at my league table over there. If Watford finished 6th, that would be spectacular. We're fairly early to judge on whether that's going to happen. I do still think there'll be some kind of regression to the mean. But hey, go ahead, Tom. Prove me wrong and you'll climb up this list. And again, we're pitching him in, and others have maybe come into this division this season and really taken things by storm. So, yeah, we're kind of levelled off a bit on Tom Cleverley, but with the acknowledgement, if Watford stay where they are, he climbs up this list. Yeah, there's a big faller. I think that might be my biggest faller in this list today. It's a shame that. Marti Cifuentes was 10th in July and in September, based on what he did last year, quite frankly. And that you have to undo slightly because QPR are 22nd in the Championship at the moment with 1 win in 9. So as much as we loved Cifuentes last season, you've got to acknowledge it's nowhere near as good this season. So I've knocked him down quite a lot, actually. 4 spots down to 14th. And the problem is the constant comparisons with Sheffield Wednesday and Danny Rohl. It looks like Danny Rohl has solved the problem already with Wednesday's slip and the high expectations of last year. And Cifuentes hasn't yet. So bear with me, QPR fans. Drop off there. I think if you're being reasonable, you'll find understandable. Paul Warne, I'm just going to leave him 13th. I always get criticism for my picks on Paul Warne. Yes, I like him as a person. The reason I have him quite so high, and people say, oh, Ben, I get the argument, and this is a matter of opinion, isn't it? People say that Rotherham being relegated repeatedly under Paul Warne is bad. I look upon it differently. I say the Rotherham thing, he actually did pretty much as well as he probably was ever going to with those budgets in those situations, and we'll never know. You can't prove or disprove my theory either way because it's distant past now. Derby is certainly doing well. They're 12th in the league, so I'm going to leave Warne at 13th. And look, if Derby go down further in the table this year, we'll drag him down a little bit lower. But I think in terms of experience of the division, and actually being pretty competitive always with Rotherham for the most part, I think he's a good Championship manager. But I understand others disagree, particularly on this one. I'm almost obstinately leaving him there to prove my point. But hey, I'll either be right or I'll be wrong. But we'll all learn in the end. How about that? Right, there you go. There's the elephant in the room. That's the reason why we've had to move a load of people down who probably didn't deserve it. You've got to really say, Regis Le Bris, what more can he do? He's been in 9 games and he's top of the league. Obviously, I can't put him above people who've worked in the division for years and had success and have got promotions on their CV. So, look, if you're going to be a really churlish Sunderland fan, I mean, come on. Grow up a little bit. You've got to understand other people have done more work and deserve that to be acknowledged. But the 9 games of Regis Le Bris to be top of the league from Sunderland, that's outstanding, isn't it? What else can he do? Did you hear me, Sunderland fans? Like to have a pop at me. That's outstanding, yes. But other people exist in this list and we have to acknowledge their previous work. But, yeah, look, 21st, 17th, up to 12th. And by God, if he's in the top 4, top 6, he'll keep on climbing, Sunderland fans. Don't you worry about that. Neil Harris. I haven't done a great job on the artwork there. Look, he's floating, Neil, isn't he? So we had to put him in 7th at the start of the season because it was just outstanding, wasn't it, last season at Millwall? I think they were like top of the league for the last 10 games. Or you could certainly pick out periods of Harris at the end of last season in the rescue mission where they were scoring the most points and had the best points per game of any team in the Championship. There's other stuff, he's taken them to 8th in the past. I know maybe some people would argue that's ancient history. I get that argument. In the playoffs with Cardiff as well. Little drop off now. I've taken him down 2 places the last 2 times. And this is the difficulty we have with these lists of going with the past against exactly what's happening today. So if Harris doesn't deliver today, then the past becomes slightly less relevant, doesn't it? So I've dropped him down to 11th. So we're trying to acknowledge both things there, that Millwall are currently 18th in the league, but there's a good history, particularly from last season. Top 10, Danny Rohl is a flip-flopping. We had 9th, we had 11th, we've had 10th. I'll go back to my comments in the little segment about Marti Cifuentes that we had massive expectations for Wednesday and Rohl, expecting him maybe to climb. I don't know, maybe check my video. I probably would have had him in the top 6 at the end of last season just for that massive performance in that moment. And then we kind of start afresh, don't we? Brilliant stuff by Rohl to get Sheffield Wednesday safe from relegation. I think the idea that he solved the problem is something there, that they looked like they were trending down badly in sort of games 2 to 6 or something this season. And now they've come back 7-point week, in fact, to round out the last block of games. So we'll put him kind of in the middle of the 2 positions I've had before. But Rohl is the first of our top 10. And in 9th, there is John Eustace, who's like Regis Le Bris, climbed and climbed and climbed. 15th, 12th, 9th. Let's be honest, the only reason Eustace dropped down to 15th is that Rovers were careering towards relegation and just got out of it at the end of last season. And we could have made an argument that it was maybe having Smodics in such amazing form there, the top scorer in the division, that did that. And Eustace had a potent weapon. But now you've just got to look at it and say, this guy's just a really good Championship manager, isn't it? Had the run at Birmingham the first season, he got them safe. The new ownership came in. He had them nicely high up in the table, and then they got shot of him. And now Blackburn are 8th in the table. That's just excellent for a team that nearly got relegated. So Eustace, maybe this is the peak, but we've got to just keep bumping him up and up and up. He's just been really good at Championship level, hasn't he? In 8th, Paul Heckingbottom. He is a promotion winner in the past, isn't he, with Sheffield United, which meant when he came back in at Preston, I had to pitch him in really quite high. I do. When we're doing these lists, it is of great value to me if someone's won promotion out of this division before. You get people arguing that because someone's had 9 good games at a club and they might be, I don't know, in the top 10 at the moment, that makes them better than the Preston manager who's currently 19th. I've got to value that promotion win with Sheffield United. So I've dropped him off a single place. Look, if Preston struggle this season, Heckingbottom will continue to drop down the table, of course. But it's early days, and I guess we're acknowledging the history of that promotion in recent times with Sheffield United. Yeah, Michael Carrick, I've put up a place. I've basically swapped him and Heckingbottom. And it's been weird with Middlesbrough, these videos. We've done the My 1 to 24. We've done the Bookies 1 to 24. And Middlesbrough seem to be quite popular in all the picks, with all the sort of punditry around the Championship at the moment, that there's this idea that they're all set up and ready to go and something good is about to happen. And I totally understand all the comments that say, hang on a minute, Ben, something good's about to happen. They're ninth in the table. It hasn't happened yet. So I'm kind of feeling the same thing here by swapping him with Heckingbottom. Maybe that's more about Preston probably being in a struggle and Heckingbottom having to prove himself there. But Carrick is up a place. And, I mean, if you actually look at the longest tenures, there's a good page on Wikipedia that does all the dates of English football managers. The longer these managers stay in the damn job, the higher they end up in this list. So, yeah, Carrick, we're waiting for something to happen. And I get both sides of the argument here. Okay, I'll say no more. This is a tough one now with Mark Robins, isn't it? I'm keeping him 6th, and this is purely on the amazing past. And we try not to acknowledge stuff too much outside the Championship. But yeah, League 2, League 1. I think he won the Shield, didn't he, in League 2 as well alongside that. Even in the Championship, though. Stabilising, well, they weren't even playing in their stadium. Sisu nonsense, pitch nonsense, takeovers, all of that. Certainly best players. Still got to the playoff final and lost on penalties. So the past, yeah, let's just say this. I mean, I suppose there's an argument with Daniel Farke, isn't there, with 2 promotions. But in terms of at a single club, there's no argument that Mark Robins would be number 1. But we have to factor in what's happening at the moment. And I think even a Coventry fan with the most emotional draw towards Mark Robins for what he's done in the past would have to admit, for what he's built and the squad he's got at the moment, what's happening 20th place is not good enough. So you've got this kind of sense of brilliant, iconic, heroic club manager just kind of underperforming at the minute. So I'm going to leave him in 6th. Honestly, when I came to do this list this morning, I thought, I'm definitely going to have to drop Mark Robins down a place. But really, and you'll find this when I talk about your comments at the end, these lists aren't just about the individual manager. It's can you justify anyone else overtaking them at the same time? And I didn't really feel I would have had to have like Michael Carrick overtaking him. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense, does it? So I'm going to leave Robins in 6th with the acknowledgement that has to drop soon, okay, if this poor form goes on. Speaking of dropping, I could have dropped Rob Edwards further, but I'm trying to be sensible here and not go crazy on these lists because, football moves fast, doesn't it? And I could be sat here and thinking, I just dropped Rob Edwards down 9 places or whatever. I've got to flip him up 2 or 3. There was some big rumours the other day that he'd actually walked out. And maybe there was no smoke or no fire there whatsoever. But yeah, it's certainly revealing that you could actually take those rumours seriously. The start of the season, I had him 2nd, you can see. Dropped him to 4th. Pretty unimpeachable record in football management up until now, but he's going to earn his money. Luton 21st in the table. They are a year 1 parachute team with a squad that was in the Premier League last season as well. So I've dropped him down 1. But look, well, let's be really honest about this. If Luton stay where they are, I'm not going to be dropping him down any more places because he'll probably get the sack and I won't have the opportunity to do that. So we need a run of form for Luton. Else Edwards is dropping down this list or not being on this list at all. Daniel Farke in 4th. Now, I'm constantly going to bat, really, for Daniel Farke with... there's I don't say a large cohort of Leeds fans. It's just... It's an intense fan base, isn't it, Leeds? And a big club with high expectations. And I get the argument with the suspicious fans in terms of Daniel Farke, where they say, look, anything outside the top 2 isn't good enough, is a failure. I get that argument. It's a bit stiff. I wouldn't like to be judged like that in my life. But hey, I'm not in the elite world of football management in one of the top 5 leagues in Europe, had I? So, yeah, I get the argument. I've dropped him down a place, kind of buying that argument, really, that if Leeds are 5th and Leeds finish 5th this season, that's not going to be considered a good performance, is it? And this is a manager with 2 stars as well in terms of not just promotions, title wins at Norwich. The first of them utterly spectacular, but I get the argument that, come on, man, that was 5 years ago now. Although we have to acknowledge history. But yeah, maybe Daniel Farke is destined to move back up this list. I think there's been some mitigating factors. There's been some weird quirks in their results. You know, the injuries to the central midfield is not helpful either. But it is what it is. And I'll go back to that point with Leeds. It's either top 2, tick, anything else, cross. And he'll move up the list. I'm sure he'll move up the list. And unless we get something like, I don't know, Oxford or Swansea or Derby or someone from there finishing in the playoffs where we just have to put their manager right at the top because, you know, that sort of performance even outstrips someone getting promoted sometimes, doesn't it? So we will see. But I have dropped Daniel Farke a place at 4. And I've dropped Scott Parker 1 place. I'm flip-flopping with Parker. Started 3rd. I put him up after the good start to 2nd. I've dropped him down to 3rd. And I'm going with the data. I know some people get very, very cross when I reference data. Fine, whatever. View football how you see fit. Just allow me to do the same. Okay, but the data says that Burnley are right at the top of their, you know, what they've output in terms of numbers to results. They're really wringing everything out of these shot counts and performances and the amount of control they have on games to have the 2 points per game. But he's always there, Parker, isn't he? We always seem to be saying he's up at the top of the league. Okay, normally with a wealthy club with parachute payments at this level, but he does output points, doesn't he? So let's put him at 3rd, and he's just going to hover around there and continue to be the Championship enigma that he always is. 2nd place, we had Carlos Corberan at number 1 last time round. And this is difficult because this is expectations. This is West Brom being 4th a better achievement than one of the other managers with the parachute teams being higher? And it probably is, given what's gone on at West Brom and what he's got to work with and what the others have got to work with. But they have had a wobble, haven't they? In that 3-game week, defeat, draw. So again, I must keep my powder dry and not go too crazy and move people miles in these videos. But we're going to knock Carlos down to number 2. And I must not go crazy and move people massively around in this list. But I have gone a little bit crazy here, look, because I've knocked someone up 4 places to number 1. And okay, we could do the next international break and Sheffield United have got some different fixtures and Chris Wilder will no longer be number 1. But I asked the question, watch back the video, I'll link it at the end. I asked the question at the start of the season, is he back? Are we going to get the historic Chris Wilder at Championship level? Or is he a busted flush? Is the toothpaste out of the tube? There's evidence on the first 9 games where Sheffield United, by points per game, are the best team in the league. I know they're not top, but they had a -2, didn't they? They would be top without the -2. Chris Wilder is the best performing manager, so by those metrics. And there's some argument that he's back. So if you couple together the fact that you have a manager performing very well now, who has an extraordinary promotion with the same club, actually, in the past at Championship level. That's not to mention work done at other levels, though we're going to try not to focus on that, including at Premier League level, which, again, shouldn't be relevant. But I'm going to make the jump that if he's back and if he's performing at the peak of his powers right now, with that history, that he has to go up to number 1 in the list. It'll all move, it'll all fluctuate, but we'll put Chris Wilder of Sheffield United as our number 1 in our Championship manager rankings for the October international break. There we go. What we're going to do, if I point the right way, over there, we'll put the previous 2 lists, okay, so you can see my rationale and my thinking. Get involved in the comments. I say this every time. It makes no difference because the emotional people are going to be emotional, whatever I say. Just keep it calm in the comments. It's supposed to be a bit of fun. And remember, it's a list. So commenting on just one person doesn't work because you have to justify who you're moving up, who you're moving down, who's that person higher than, who's that person lower than, and why. So give me as much detail in your comments as you can rather than just yelling at me because the manager of the team you support needs to be higher. Come on, let's do better than that. Let's have a good debate in the chat. Convince me. Change my mind. Do that rather than just yell at me. Look, the people who are going to yell at me are just going to yell at me anyway. But I've got to say it anyway. I've got to try and do my bit for internet sanity. Anyway, check out the old videos up there. And we'll see you with the Championship Check-In podcast. Sam Parkin will be back on the channel tomorrow.